Welcome to Game Week with the Compas. And before I get to my rule of the week for NFL betting, NFL Week 10, since people like to call us out in the comments whenever we're wrong, I'm gonna brag about our victories. I guess that's the way you do it when you have a betting show, right? So we told you do not back the Packers, minus 13 against the Panthers. Guess what? The Panthers won. And I told you go ahead and back the Vikings plus 8.5. Guess what? The Vikings beat the Lions. So there you go. There are some bragging points right there. Now for the rule here, and speaking about Lions Vikings, it was the only divisional game last week in week 9. But for week 10, there are six divisional games here, starting with Broncos and the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. The Broncos are laying 9.5. And I bring this up because I was talking to Mike Palm, one of the odds makers at the Circa in Las Vegas. If you haven't been to the Circa, check it out. Fun place to be, especially for NFL Sunday. But Mike was saying, you know what? I got a rule here, and I like this rule. And the rule is, whenever there's a divisional game, do not lay more than a field goal. Now the problem is this week that's going to be a tough rule to abide by or follow because 5 out of the 6 they're laying more than a field goal, and Broncos and the Raiders, you're thinking like, oh, Broncos for sure could cover that 9 there. They're at home Thursday Night Football. I would advise caution, and I would say stay away. Obviously, I like the number 2. I'm not on the Raiders here. I will take the Broncos if you're twisting my hand, but I'd rather stay away. I'll stay away from Bills and the Dolphins. Also 9.5 for the Bills in Miami. And when it was Miami in Buffalo, the Bills did not cover. There's a few other games. Cardinals, Seahawks. Seahawks are laying 6.5. That's one I do like. I do like the Cardinals, and I will tell you later on. 49ers, Rams, 49ers are dogs here at home. They beat the Rams, and they're getting spotted 4.5. I like the 49ers here. I will tell you more later. And there was one more. Okay, and Panthers, Saints, that's the other one. Panthers, Saints is Panthers 5.5. They're red hot right now. They're at home. And those Saints are horrendous. Maybe that's one where you say, I'm gonna break the rules here. I don't care about the laying a field goal in divisional games, but honestly, I would stay away. Personally, whenever I bet the Panthers, they screw me. When I stay away, they do well. So I'm not going to touch that game, but maybe Victor will let us know in a bit. But right there, 5 out of 6. Most of them I will not touch. And then the one game that's not decided by or not having a spread of bigger than 3 points, surprisingly, Jaguars and the Texans. The Texans have Davis Mills, not CJ Stroud. I will share more information about that game too. But that's one that fits the criteria. You want to bet on that one? Go ahead. You're not breaking the rules there. But with that said, Victor, how you doing?
Doing good. I mean, that's some good information. When you get 6 divisional games, we know what the lines can be there in terms of what we might see in a matchup. But yeah, that's a good segue for us to kind of get into this week 10 preview show. When I first saw the line on the Raiders Broncos game, and I started putting our rundown together for this show, I was gonna go with the Raiders at +10, but then I've told you my rule now, and I'm not gonna go against it here either. You always on Thursday night you go with the home team, especially when that team in the Raiders is having to travel, a time zone. The time zones matter here. We saw what happened with the Vikings having to go 2 time zones to the Chargers. They got blown out. And sometimes it helps. You had the Baltimore Ravens last week. I went with the Dolphins. I took a chance there, but I'm with you, especially in a divisional game. This might be one that might be closer. And at first I flip flopped on this, ended up going with the Broncos, but we'll get into it later on, Gilbert.
Yeah, I know people don't like to talk about rules, but with betting, I think rules are good. It shows restraint. It shows okay, I'm okay. It shows you don't have an addiction either, and
Yeah.
always play it safe when it comes to gambling. But right there, you mentioned maybe 3 or 4 rules that you have, Victor, and if it didn't pass, you're not going to take it. Like obviously, one is like, all right, you're not taking the Broncos, so you're not breaking the rules because it's don't lay more than a field goal. You were thinking about taking the points with the Raiders. It didn't pass the test because of being on the road, different time zone, things like that. That is a good way how you succeed in NFL betting. And I know betting in the NFL is very tricky, but I think sometimes when you stay away, the ones that you're very calculated and you think more about those, that's how you tend to win money here, and that's how you become a sharp. You go from a square to a sharp there. So I love that breakdown by you, Victor, your thought process, because that's what we go through here on Game Week with the Compas.
Yeah, and we've been successful this year. We both had a 3-2 for our best bets week. So, you rebounded well. You hit on your super dog contest as well. But let's get into the main event game of the week here, Gilbert, if you don't mind. We'll get into the Philadelphia Eagles going to the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. And I'm going to be honest with you. I am very, very um confused by this line. The Packers are 2.5 point favorites. I get it. They're at home. The over under is 45.5. What are the numbers saying here? Because I don't understand how the Packers are 2.5 point favorites here, Gilbert.
Yeah, and a quick promo. Check out my story at si.com. If you don't know who I am, I'm Gilberto Manzano of Compa Gilberto Gil. I cover the NFL for Sports Illustrated, and once a week I have a NFL betting column where I speak to odds makers that give me information, and then with that information, I try to share some advice here for the games coming up and some betting picks here. Last week was pretty good for me. The week before that, not so much, but that's why I always go to the experts to kind of give me more insight instead of just me saying, "Oh, I picked these teams." I want to give you information, but uh, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw this line here, and it was the Packers who were the favorite, and the Eagles who are coming off a bye week, and the Packers are pretty, fatigued playing in Pittsburgh, coming home in a flat performance against Carolina. I thought it was easy money. Maybe go take the Eagles here. I was gonna make it my best bet of the week. And then I said, here's another rule that I have. If it looks funny, if it looks weird, maybe it's too good to be true. And I've gotten burned a couple times this season. Saints, Giants being one. The Giants were red hot. They go into New Orleans, not red hot, but they beat the Chargers and they were high. And the Saints whooped the Giants that week. That was their one victory, I think, this season. I got burned on that one. You did not, Victor. I remember you went with the Saints there, but so with that being said, it just seems too good to be true. So I'm going to stay away from this game. But talking to Mike Palm again, the odds maker at the Circa, who touched on this game for my column tonight or later today, si.com. Go check that out again on the promo. He really likes this one. He said, "Okay, you know what? I'm taking the Eagles. I don't care that it seems funny. I think it's just the Packers are getting the benefit for being the home team. I like that the Eagles are on a bye week. I like that the Eagles, are starting to get a rhythm here offensively." So when he told me that, I was like, you know what? Maybe I am overthinking it, but still, I couldn't break my own rule. It just seems weird that the Packers are the favorite here. Maybe the Packers are pissed off from losing to the Panthers. Maybe the Panthers are sorry, the Packers are annoyed of hearing about them being frauds. They lost to the Browns. They tied with the Cowboys. Maybe they're not that good. So maybe and throw in the fact that the Packers lost to the Eagles in the playoffs last year. There's a lot of revenge factor here. So I feel better about staying away from this one. But Mike Palm also mentioned that he expects this line to be pretty much a -1 for the Packers come kickoff. So that means money could pour in on the Eagles. He didn't say would that be sharp money. That probably be public money. So again, don't get scared if you're going to bet the Packers here. I think it could be public. It probably be public Eagles and probably sharps on Packers. That's my guess here. That's not something that Mike said, but when he said the line could be -1 Green Bay, that pretty much told me there's going to be a lot of money on the Eagles in the coming days here. But again, I'm not touching this game. There's something that's fishy. I really want to take the Eagles, but it's never that easy.
Yeah, and this is where I'm gonna go the other way with it, Gilbert. And I get it. Going into the narrative here for this game, we know what we saw against the Green Bay Packers in terms of how they looked against the Panthers. They looked terrible against them. You lose Kraft, your tight end there for the season, and now you're kind of wondering where this Packers team goes from here, but they have the talent. And that's the thing, is that the reason I looked at this line and I'm like, how are the Packers -2.5? I was thinking that the Eagles were gonna, especially coming off a bye, would be the favorite here on the road. And I would have still gone with the Packers. I'm still going with the Packers here just because everybody's down on them right now. And this is where someone like a coach like Matt LaFleur can rally his troops. and that's the thing with the Packers. My biggest reason for saying that they're frauds is because they play down to their competition. I feel like part of the reason why they lost to the Panthers is because they were looking ahead to this game, Gilbert. And so for me, this is why I was hoping that the Eagles would be the favorite here so I can pounce on it more, like take advantage of it. But the fact that you're giving me here 2.5, you're making it a field goal game. I'm gonna go with the Packers here, Gilbert.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue too much there. And to your point, the when the Packers are favored by less than a field goal, they I think they've covered every game, unless I'm forgetting one. But they beat the Lions, they beat the Commanders when they were healthy in week 2. There was a few other ones out there, but when it's like a bigger spread, more than a field goal, they have not been covering. And like you mentioned, they play down to the competition. They look ahead. They're not as focused here, but I just can't bring myself to pick the Packers, and but I also think it's fishy that the Eagles, are dogs here, so I'm gonna stay away. But if I'm being forced here, I will pick the Eagles to win here, and obviously I think I did in our Compas challenge and the SI challenge, but this one I could definitely see the Packers are winning. So I gotta stay. I'm staying away from my ruling. You're going with the Packers here for a split here.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm very intrigued by this game in terms of where these two teams kind of stack up. Eagles look like they're still the head of the class in the NFC, and the Packers, they need to bounce back after what we saw. And I can guarantee you, Gilbert, come Tuesday, if the Packers beat the Eagles, they're gonna be right. Everybody's gonna be talking
Oh
about
yeah.
the Packers being back and being the Super Bowl contender. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
And
we'll
as
see
we
what.
get through the show, there's gonna be some annoyances that I have because I know it's week 10, and but there's still like 4 or 5 pretenders that I need to see more from because they haven't played some key divisional games or haven't really paid anybody. And and I already kind of gave that on Compas on the Beat on Tuesday when I was annoyed with the Seahawks love here. But but it's kind of good though. Second half, there's a lot to look forward to, and I think if the Packers beat the Eagles, maybe that narrative shifts a little bit for them because right now they haven't proven anything.
Nope, and I'm with you. All right, let's move on to our co-main event game. We have the New England Patriots traveling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2.5 point favorites here. The over/under is 48.5. Gilbert, what are the numbers saying for this? Unsurprised, a bit of a surprise matchup that we have as a co-main event, because if you told
Yeah.
me before the season that this would be a prime matchup, I would have just laughed. But here we are. The Patriots look like a for real team.
You know what's funny? I'm not that excited about this game because I feel like the Buccaneers are still depleted with injuries, and I think next week and the Buccaneers, by the way, play the Patriots, Bills, and the Rams 3 weeks in a row here, so they better get off to a good start here. But like I get more excited for Bills, Bucks, Rams, Bucks because maybe 1 week passes and they get healthier, but no Bucky Irvin again, probably no Chris Godwin, obviously no Mike Evans coming back. Is Igbuka back to 100% from the hamstring injury coming out the bye week? Maybe that could be a plus there for Baker Mayfield, but they have some injuries too. So coming out the bye week, we're going to learn a lot about the Buccaneers and okay, where are they in terms of health wise? The Patriots. I know the Patriots beat the Bills, but I think the Patriots, in terms of those 3 opponents coming up, are probably third. I like the Rams and the Bills better, but it's could be a good shootout here. And just because they're at home, and actually, now that I think about it, I've been going back and forth with this game here. I hate the waiver early in the week, and it's not even just about the points here. I'm thinking about this game as a matchup because the points don't really do anything for me. I don't really see an advantage here. Uh, either way, you take the Bucks minus 2.5. I think it's okay. You take the points. You go with the Patriots. So I'm gonna go and talk straight up here. I want to take a chance, and I think this is why. And this is a whole different way of thinking for me. There's a lot of games where I'm having a hard time picking the dog outright, and the Patriots are one of those that I got to circle, and I'm not going to waver from that. So just with that said, I will take the Patriots here, and obviously I'll take the points here. But I do like that the Bucks are at home, and I do like that they're coming off a bye week. But I gotta see what they have because they didn't. They kind of looked. I know Fernando's been hyping them up, but they kind of been on one leg. They haven't really been flexing their muscles. They got beat up by the Lions. I forgot the last time they played. They played the Saints. I think that didn't really matter. But the last time we saw them in a big boy game, they got beat up pretty badly by a Lions team that didn't even look that good that game.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that this is the Tom Brady Bowl.
Oh yeah,
as yeah,
yeah.
these are the two teams that Tom Brady played for and won a Super Bowl with. But in terms of the narrative for this matchup, as you laid it out there, Gilbert, I think these are two teams that have gotten have been really good in one score games. We saw last week against the Falcons with the Patriots. If it wasn't for Parker Romo missing the extra point there for the for the Falcons, I should say, maybe they go into overtime against the Falcons. And then, as you we've said with Tampa Bay, I think they've most of their wins have been by by a possession, and so I can that's the reason why this game is a 2.5 point. The line is at 2.5. I like the Buccaneers here. Just they're at home. They're coming off a bye, as you said, and I still want to see more out of this New England Patriot team. My biggest thing is they're gonna take advantage of having a fourth place schedule. This is one where they're finally going up against a team that's in that finished first last season, and they're still in first place now. And so I want to see how they stack up. To me, we, as you mentioned earlier, week 10 is when we start seeing, can these teams start to separate from from the rest of the division. And I just don't see that against with the Bills in that division. And so they need to show a lot in this game. And so for me, I'm going with the team that I know what they can do, and I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here.
Yeah, this is gonna be another one where I don't really have to argue hard here because I don't either way I can see it. And uh the Buccaneers not being close to full strength and say, again, they're coming out the bye week, so there's a good chance it could be a little healthier. Even if they're not, I think they could beat the Patriots. They might need to be full strength for the Bills and the Rams, but the Patriots, I still think they have a lot to prove too, and they beat the Bills. But Drake May is hot, and maybe we get a fun shootout: Drake May versus Baker Mayfield. Uh, you know, their running game didn't really take off the way I intended with Trayvon Henderson, who's been struggling. They got this kid Jennings, who also could maybe give them a little bit of a thumper. I don't think Stevenson comes back this week, but you got to be balanced and keep the Buccaneers off the field. So it might be one of those games where the last person has the ball, Baker or May wins this game.
Yeah, and I think an X factor here is going to be Todd Bowles and how he goes about, um, how he goes about attacking Drake May, because and Josh McDaniel. Josh McDaniel has been great as an offensive coordinator. We saw what he did when he was with Mac Jones, and then now with Drake May. I want to see what Todd Bowles has for Drake May in this game,
Yeah,
especially when he's had 2 weeks to prepare for Drake May. So if Drake May comes out of this playing well, then
yeah.
I think he gets right back into the MVP conversation.
Great point by you. Todd Bowles 2 weeks. I like it.
Yep. All right, let's head over to the LA betting market. We're going to start off with the Los Angeles Rams traveling to the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams are 4.5 point favorites. The over under here is 49.5, Gilbert. And you mentioned that you like the 49ers in this game in terms of the line. So what are the numbers saying, and what's the big reason why you like the 49ers in terms of the line here?
Yeah, this is a game where I started talking to Mike Palm, and he mentioned the rule there of not laying more than a field goal for divisional games. And but then he was a little hesitant too. He's like, you know what? Because they are playing the second time. A lot of times these divisional games just even out. One team wins the first one, the other one wins the second one. You just don't know who's going to win in what order. And we were surprised when the Rams lost to the 49ers the first time around because they were at home, and the 49ers are pretty banged up with the injuries there. So now the Rams get to go to Santa Clara for Levi Stadium here, and the more I talked to Mike, the more I felt like there's not a good sense of where the sharps are going here. Like it just seems like maybe a game where people might stay away from because I think the 4.5 really is scaring the public too. Like say, and the public tends to not have restraint here, so maybe they might take the Rams here in the -4.5, but if it comes down to -3 or 3.5, I don't think it'll come down below 3.5. But if it goes down a point, then that probably tells you a lot of people are going to be on the Rams here. And I am having a hard time picking a side here in terms of the spread. I'll say this: I'll take the Rams to win outright, but I'm gonna lean and take the 49ers on the points. I think this the 4.5 is a lot of points here. You get the hook too on the field goal, so I would take the 49ers because they're at home. I do like the Kyle Shanahan versus McVay factor, where Shanahan just always gets up for this game. He has his best performance. They do have Robert Saleh. They are in their head of the Rams. The pressure's on the Rams here. Everything the 49ers are doing is they're playing with house money. They shouldn't even be in this spot here. Now they're at home. And nobody's talking about them. Everybody's talking about the Seahawks and the Rams. Guess what? The 49ers beat both of these teams. They beat the Seahawks in Seattle and they beat the Rams in Los Angeles or Inglewood. So I get it. They're not getting a lot of love. And I was gonna say I don't get it, but I do get it because they are just depleted. No Nick Bosa. There's no Fred Warner. They have a bunch of injuries, maybe no Brock Purdy. I get that, but at some point you just gotta just trust, coaching, trust that divisional rivals are gonna play close games. So I'm gonna go with that. But here's the point for the Rams here. I I did not like what I saw from the 49ers against a tough Houston defense. And I think the Rams defense maybe not as well rounded as Houston, but they're still pretty damn good. So I think Jared Verse has a lot to prove when Trent Williams ate him up in the first meeting. I think the Rams defense is going to get up. They've been playing better. They got Roger McCreary, in the trade here. So they could definitely frustrate, the Mac Jones the second time around. But again, I just don't like the number. So Rams outright, 49ers to cover.
Yeah, and I'm with you here. I don't understand why this is a 4.5 for the Rams here, and a lot of it too, Gilbert, is the what was it, the 49ers had beaten the Rams, or and Shanahan had beaten McVay for like 8 straight times outside of the championship game, right? And last year he didn't have McCaffrey. He has McCaffrey, and what did he do in that first matchup? He exposed the Rams defense. They put um our Nate Landman on an island there against McCaffrey, and he couldn't do anything. And so that's the thing too, is that Shanahan knows how to attack this defense. And my biggest question mark is going to be, if you're the defensive coordinator for the Rams, how do you adjust after what you saw? And I get it, that first matchup was on a short week, right? You didn't have a lot of time to prepare. Now, to me, you've been preparing for this matchup for 2 weeks now, because I don't think you took a lot of time to prepare for the Saints. I mean, I've heard, I don't know if you saw, but a lot of the meetings there, they were interrupted with them watching the World Series games between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, and so that told me a lot that, hey, they knew where they were at. They knew they were the better team against the Saints, and so they've had time to kind of prepare for this matchup. And so I wonder what they have in store for this 49ers team. But I'm with you in terms of the betting here. I like the 49ers at plus 4.5. I like the Rams to win this game, but and especially when we know that I think 8 of whatever the matchups have been between my McVay and Shanahan have been one possession games. This is going to be a close game. We talked about the rules, about how, in these divisional games they're usually close. I can see the Rams kind of doing the same thing that the 49ers did to them, going up there and kind of taking and winning this game up there in Santa Clara.
Yeah, from the Rams, point of view, you can make a case they probably should have won that game by 10 points. They were sleepwalking in the first half. Kyron Williams had killer fumbles, one at the goal line to probably put the game away. So they probably should have won that game. But you're right. They had fits against Christian McCaffrey, and when you have big Trent Williams at left tackle neutralizing your best edge rusher, you're in the ball game. Those are two things that you could have: a good old line and a good running game. And guess what? George Kittle wasn't in that game. He's in this game now.
Yep.
We'll see how many more players could return for the 49ers. It doesn't sound great. And then Robert Saleh has had a couple more weeks to adjust without Bosa and Warner. So I'm expecting a very close game, entertaining game, and it's always pretty fun matchup with these two teams here.
Yeah, especially they're playing chess out there, man, and that's one of the fun things about these two head coaches. And we'll see what happens. I'll say this. This will be my final point. The Rams red zone has gone a lot better. You're starting to see Matthew Stafford targeting Devontae Adams down in the goal line, and if that is the case, and they figured out their red zone, be careful with this Rams. They might take off now.
Yeah, and for more information on this game promo here, check out House of Horns on our YouTube channel, on audio, Spotify, and Apple. We're gonna break down Rams versus 49ers Part 2. And by the time you're watching this video, the live video will be out. So check that out on House of Horns YouTube for a full breakdown here.
Yep, and we'll get into that one uh as well. We'll do the full breakdown as you said. All right, Gilbert, let's head over to our other LA betting market game, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football. The Chargers are 3-point favorites. The over/under is 45. I I guess my biggest question in terms of what their numbers are saying, Gilbert, is how much of an impact losing Joe Alt had on this line, and what does it do going forward in terms of how you bet on the Chargers with no Joe Alt?
Yeah, it's funny the way I phrased it for Mike Palm again from the Circa. It was like, all right, what are people thinking here? Like it's the Chargers who have a nobody O line, nobody's playing on their O line facing T.J. Watt. Are people going to take the Steelers here? He's like, better yet, you know what? I like the over here on the 45. So that kind of told me everything, which I do like the over. I think Herbert could, light up the secondary. I
True.
think that Jalen Ramsey moving to safety was maybe like a 1 week fluke. I know they played the Colts, and that was an impressive win for the Steelers. I will give them credit for that. That came out of left field, but the Colts play better on at home on turf indoors. So, will this new Ramsey safety look travel to SoFi Stadium? I don't know, but I'll say this to kind of before I beat her. Sorry, I'll stop beating around the bush here. Um, I know Mike was hinting to stay away from this game here because he doesn't like the Steelers. Uh, but I really don't like this Chargers O line, and I think TJ Watt, if he just has one of his vintage games, he could disrupt this whole line. And, you know, it could definitely be high scoring. It could definitely be close here, but to have Herbert drop back 40, 50 times, we know that's never a good recipe to win games for this team here. So,
Yeah.
uh, I, I won't stay away. I think I'm a back the Steelers. Give me the +3 here. Um, the last time the Chargers didn't have Joe Alt, they had a brutal stretch here. The Steelers really have to have a good running game. They don't have a Jonathan Taylor. They don't have a Cam Scatterboo. They don't have a Bill and Jaden Daniels. I'm rattling off all the names where the Chargers struggled without Joe Alt here. So Kenneth Gainwell's decent. I don't know if Jalen Warren's playing. I lost track here. This is not a good offense. But Aaron Rodgers can maybe do something here. So I'm gonna take TJ Watt and I'm gonna take a prideful Steelers defense that showed me something last week because I just do not trust the Chargers O line. This is a bad O line, Vic. And people are trying to make Trevor Penny like the hero who's gonna save the Chargers. I don't see that happening. He's a bust for a reason. So I'll take the Steelers +3. And I like what Mike Palm said. I'll take the over on the 45 too.
Yeah, that's a good bet there. My biggest thing here, and I have two points here. The Steelers might have two of the better wins of any team. You beat the Patriots and you beat the Colts this season, two of the most surprising teams. And when they beat those teams, Gilbert, I think it was like I think they forced both of those teams into 5 turnovers each. You're gonna have to do the same thing against this Chargers team because without Joe Alt, Gilbert, they've gone, if you look at the numbers, they're like a top 5, top 6 offense with Joe Alt. Without him, they drop all the way to under 26. So, I mean, that's a big jump. That's being like a Rams offense down to being somewhere like a Houston Texans type of offense. So that just tells you how big he is, and that was the reason why wanted to ask you in terms of the line, how much has changed. Because for me, like looking at this, I think if Joe Alt was in this game, this is probably like a 5 line or maybe even a 6. But the fact that he's not here, I seen that -3. I'm with you. I still like the Chargers just because they're at home, and in and it just feels like Justin Herbert is gonna finally be that quarterback that we've been asking him to be. Be the Superman here, and we've seen it all season long. For as much as people have gotten on the offensive coordinator, I've really liked the fact that they've said, you know what? We're just gonna let Justin Herbert, just let him loose now. And if you're gonna win this game, it's gonna come up to him because even that defense that struggle
Yeah.
for the Chargers, Gilbert.
Yeah, and I just can't get that Commanders game out of my mind where they don't even have a good defensive front, and they still hit Justin Herbert pretty frequently. But I do give the Commanders credit in that game. That was probably their best game of the season, where they had the running game clicking with the quarterback and the running back. You don't have that with Aaron Rodgers, and I don't really care for the running back, so maybe that could benefit this Chargers defense. But in terms of the other side, I just worry about TJ Watt.
Yeah,
I worry about guys like Alex Highsmith that hasn't played that well, but maybe he steps up. Guys like Patrick Queen don't play well, hasn't played well, maybe he steps up here. They showed a lot of pride last week, and maybe that momentum carries. But both sides, and I'm losing track of which one I'm talking about, like defense or offense. Like everything is not going right for this
yeah.
Chargers team here. Uh, I know Chargers fans will watch this video and call me out if I'm wrong here, but I can't get the Commanders game out of my mind where they have nobody's pressuring Herbert. The Miami game, Herbert got a lot of pressure. Even the Colts game, Herbert got a lot of pressure. And these are all games where I forget which one where Joe all came back. And when Joe all came back, it changed everything. So
It was the
um,
Vikings game.
yeah, and that was one of their best games of the season. So before that, Miami, uh, Indianapolis, Giants, Commanders, they were not good at all. And I think the
Yeah.
Steelers, with TJ Watt alone, could wreck this game.
Yeah, and then a couple more points here, Gilbert. It's going to be a heavy Steelers fans
Yeah,
at SoFi, and you might have to go to hand signals here, and with the beat up with new linemen going for the Chargers. It might benefit what you're saying here. It might be to your point, I should say, because they might not be able to have the right protections out there to for Herbert to have time to push the ball down the field.
yeah. So we'll see how this one turns
Yep.
out. Sunday Night Football, and check out what's up boats for the preview here. Fernando and Dan have you covered, but people know that here because they're committed to what's up boats.
Yeah, they are. All right, Gilbert, let's get to our Super Duck contest of for week 10, where we take a super dog of at least 4.5 or more. Last week, Gilbert, you got 10 points for the cover and the straight up win on it was the Vikings
Yeah.
against the Lions, as you talked at the beginning of the episode. What do you got for us this week?
Yeah, I had a little tough time here, and I hate to go back to this well because the Seattle for the most part has been proving me wrong in terms of the betting. I still think they haven't beaten anybody good for them to be ranked in the top 3 of people's power rankings. But give me the Cardinals plus 6.5 versus the Seattle Seahawks. Again, maybe the Seahawks could burn me and tell me to shut up. But even if the Seahawks beat the Cardinals, that doesn't prove anything to me. So, put it this way: the Seahawks have played 4 teams with the winning record currently. They're 2-2, and their biggest win is the Steelers. Which talking about the Steelers right now, maybe the Steelers are a good quality win. They beat the Jaguars. Those aren't really wins to brag about. Maybe the Steelers, I get. But other than that, Seattle lost to Tampa Bay. They lost to the 49ers, and they haven't even played the Rams yet. So, and then even the Cardinals Seahawks game, part 1 with Kyler Murray was pretty close. And maybe it wasn't for 3 quarters, but they let the Cardinals come back into that game in the 4th quarter in Arizona.
Yep.
I think Marvin Harrison Jr. had a decent game in that game. And Arizona has been picking it up, with Brissett. And I'm glad that Jacoby Brissett was named the starter to open the week. There's no more hiding here because Brissett is clearly the better quarterback. And they're not a juggernaut offensively, but I think Brissett operates faster. He knows what he's seeing out there faster. He's not afraid to sling it. You better know what you're seeing out there against the Seattle defense led by Mike McDonald. So I like that. I still pick Seattle to win. I'm not back on the Cardinals bandwagon, but I will say this: with Walter Nolan coming back, the rookie defensive tackle, the first round pick, it made a big difference for Jonathan Gannon's defense. I've been waiting for that guy to come and play. It took him 9 weeks, but he disrupted the Cowboys offense, which I think says something. They can't defend, but Dak could play and get some points, and they did nothing. Josh Sweat also fed off of that energy. So to me, I will take a chance here on the Cardinals to at least keep it close, but Seattle to win. And then next week we'll find out what they're made of when they play the Rams, which is a big time game.
Yeah, this was one of the two games that I thought about putting here. I'm glad you went with it because I made it my bet one of my best bets for this week. And yeah, like once Brissett has now been named the starter at least for this week. I was like, yep, I like it just because also Seattle for some reason doesn't play as well as home under Mike McDonald as they do on the road, which is really weird. But maybe they found something here, and Arizona is they're Jonathan Gannon is uh kind of coaching for his job now the rest of the season, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Jacoby Brissett is the starter the rest of the year just because of that. They got the him and the GM have to save their job, and so if they continue to play well with Brissett, then I don't see why you go away from him. I'm going with the Falcons at plus 6.5 against the Colts.
Mm,
Last week, I took a chance on the Falcons. They should have gone into overtime against the Patriots. They already released or cut their kicker because of it because they missed the extra point there. Um, they brought in Saint Gonzalez. If this game was in Indianapolis, I wouldn't have touched it. But this game is going to be in Europe. I think it's in Germany. Um,
that's right. Yeah.
or yeah, and so the fact that they're getting 6.5 in Europe, I'm like, give me the Falcons here. It's a true neutral game, so I'm like, yeah, I'll take a chance again on the Falcons. They hit for me last week. I'm like, why not? And then the Colts, I get it. They just traded for Sauce Garner, but at the same time, they still have some deficiencies on defense and offensively. I mean, I think you're starting to have people adjust to that offense. It hasn't been as good as we saw it the first 4 weeks, and so I'm taking a chance here with the Falcons, Gilbert.
Yeah, I honestly forgot that this game is not in Indianapolis, it's a neutral site, and I just because it was on when I thought it was in Indianapolis, I'm like, "I'm not touching this game," but now on a neutral site, I could see the thinking here. I wonder. I'm sure Sauce Gardner's gonna play for this game. Play in this game. He's usually it takes about a week, and he arrived there today on Wednesday to get ready for new team. So he'll have the usual 3 practice days, and I think he was limited today, Sauce, and that does worry me when he has to defend Drake London, who I have in my fantasy team, and I'm playing you this week, and I need Drake London to go off, but Sauce is going to be on him. That'll be a fun matchup here. Bijan hasn't really done anything like for
The
your
two
super
best
dog
running
sake.
backs going up against each other too. I didn't even think about
Yeah,
that.
that's
Sorry,
another one
Gilbert.
too.
Yeah,
So for my fantasy sake and your super dog's sake, I need Bijan to go off here.
yeah.
Uh, the Falcons are just tricky. I think I'm done with them because they're too up and down, but they came through for you to cover at least in New England. I did not see that coming. So hey, why not keep going?
Yeah, and I just thought they were a dumb team, but for them to be able to do that, in New England, that showed me something. And so, and again, I think you kind of have to start thinking about Raheem Morris is because if he needs to start winning games,
Yeah.
because they traded up, they got him what he needed,
Mhm.
and you're still not producing wins. I think it starts to get a little bit dicey for him, whether or not he gets a third year, Gilbert. So
Yeah, honestly, you should probably bring that up for Compa soon because that's one I've been thinking about who could be in the hot seat that nobody's talking about. Because when you invest that much on both sides of the ball and you still haven't done anything, it's going to be the coach's fault.
yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while now, especially with the expectations coming into the season. And I think the biggest thing is the fact that they traded that number one, the first round pick,
Hmm.
for to the Rams. I
It was
think
an
that,
all-in sign, and they're
yep,
not doing anything with it.
yeah. All right, Gilbert. So you had a great week last week. You went 3-2, plus you hit on that 10-point bonus because not only did you get the cover, but you also got the straight up win. That took you. I think I passed you by 4 points. Now you're up 10 on me. You're up 110 to
Nice.
100. Um, would you like to explain how our betting locks work for the 5 bets? So that way
Yeah.
people kind of figure out where our point system is.
Yeah, so we share our 5 best bets, and the first one is worth 5 points. The next one will be 4 points, 3 points, and so on, 2 and 1, and then we just tally them at the end of the week. And then also we count the super dog contest, like Victor mentioned. You get a cover, you get 5. You get the outright win and the cover, you get 10. So we just tally all the scores here, and Obviously, hitting on the Vikings really helped me out last week, but I even got a good amount in my best five here. And I'll be quick here, but I gotta admit, I didn't really have a good top five, so I took a chance here out of spite because of when Compas on the beat. You guys forced me to take the Giants over the Bears, so I'll go
Here we
all
go.
in. Screw it.
Here-
Sometimes the lone wolf does pay off. So I don't. I think the Bears are a 1 week illusion. This game seems ripe for the Bears to keep going offensively because the Giants can't stop anybody. The Giants are nobodies. The Bears beat up on nobody teams, so I could see the Bears scoring points, but I like what Jackson Dart has done. I like that the offense is still somewhat clicking, even though they don't have Cam Scatterboo. And the Bears defense is not that very good. So you know what? I'll take two teams that are still growing to maybe give us a fun matchup. So it could be close. Maybe the Bears still win, but maybe I get a cover here. So give me the Giants 3.5.
I think the thing that I like about this Giants pick is the fact that that defensive line can get after it and kind
Yeah.
of we and they haven't faced a good defensive line, it seems, in a while. So this is going to be a challenge for that Bears offensive line, I feel like, Gilbert. So I
Yeah.
like it. You're number 4 here, Gilbert.
I'm going back here. I couldn't like this game enough to make it my number five, but give me the Vikings plus 3.5 versus the Ravens. I liked what I saw from McCarthy. I like the way Kevin O'Connell coached after an embarrassing game against the Chargers. And I think we're all crowning the Ravens too soon. Where I've done this myself. Like we're saying, win, 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 win. But this Vikings game is tough. It's not a win, win, win. It's when you're playing the Browns, you're playing the Jets. Sure, check it off as a win. The Vikings not so fast, and I think this is in Minnesota. So give me the Vikings plus 3.5.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what Brian Flores does against Lamar Jackson here. I wonder if he puts the pressure on him here and make sure that he stays in the pocket there. So yeah, this is one of my best bets as well, Gilbert. So I'll talk about it when we get there. And you're number 3.
I already mentioned this one, so I'm sticking with it. I'm taking the 4.5. That's too high for the Rams here. For give me the 49ers 4.5.
Number
Uh,
2.
yeah, I tend to not go with big favorites here, but I think the Commanders are done. I think the
Yep.
Commanders might not win a game again this season. That's how bad it is now that Jaden Daniels is out. Nothing is clicking. It's pretty miserable there, and I just got rid of them in our wins challenge because they're that bad. So give me the Lions minus 8.5.
And then you're number 1.
And I mentioned this one too. I like the Steelers plus 3. I'm going against both LA teams here, but sometimes that's I think that's actually worked out for me this year.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because that's one of the rules is that you try not to put any of the LA teams on your
Yeah, but
best
I'm doing
bets.
them a favor. If it goes like if I would have picked the Chargers, I would have lost. But I'm going against them. Maybe they win, so I'm doing
Oh,
them a
there you
favor.
go. All right, my 5 bets, Gilbert. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers. We talked about this matchup already. Why I like the Buccaneers. My number 4, Cardinals. Again, we kind of talked about it already. Every time I pick the Cardinals here as a dog, Gilbert, they've come through for me. I think I'm 3-0 picking the Cardinals as a dog this year. So I'm just gonna continue it on. I talked about the Packers one as well. I like the Packers here just because of the whole narrative. Everybody's down on them. I I I did wish it was Eagles here as a favorite, but I'm still taking it just because it's under a field goal. I changed my number 2, Gilbert. After we talked about our rules, I changed it to Texans plus 1.5 against the Jaguars. It's a divisional game. One of the games I saw last week was that Texans Broncos game. I saw it from beginning to end. I'm really I have to say, like, I'm down on the Texans offense, but defensively, I mean they gave the Broncos offense hell. Um it was they just couldn't do anything offensively, but at least I know what to expect from Davis Mills. The Jaguars, I saw them against the Raiders. I wasn't that impressed. I mean, if it wasn't for uh the kicker for the Raiders missing an extra point there, they probably lose that game as well. Trevor Lawrence threw a terrible interception in the red zone in at the goal line there. I'm gonna go with the team that at home here at plus 1.5 with the Texans. And then my number 1, I found the Vikings
Hold on.
here.
Let me stop you because I do want
Yeah,
to touch on that game. I'm glad you brought it up. Texans plus 1.5 versus the Jaguars, and I personally don't like this game. And I know you might be a closet Texans fan, Victor. You keep picking them, But
Yep.
here's some good news. The
I
Sharps
have
are
them
on.
in my wins
No, that's right.
thing. So
Yeah. You can't give up on the Texans, but you're right. They have a good defense, but some good news. The Sharps are in on the Texans. I was surprised when Mike Palm told me that. He said that's my he circled that one for the pros versus Joe's game. The public's going to be all over the Jaguars because they beat the Raiders and the Texans don't have CJ Stroud. Well, what you mentioned, I think the Sharps are in on that. It's a good defense. Davis Mills is not the worst, not the best either, but he's solid. And this is kind of a little bit of a fraudy team here, Jacksonville. So with the defense, that could be enough here. So for a sharp play here, I like it, Vic. That's a good one for you.
yeah, and then my number one, Gilbert, I'm with you here on the Vikings. I found that when I put it in earlier this morning, it was at +4. It must have gone down to 3.5. I found that at +4. So,
Mm.
and I'm with you with the Vikings, especially what Brian Flores can do and Kevin O'Connell. The Ravens need to show me. I get it; they blew out the Miami Dolphins, but it was the Miami Dolphins, and as we said, you're gonna see a bunch of people like as soon as a quarterback comes back, everybody just jumps on that bandwagon. But and JJ McCarthy showed me something, and so they might have something here. We'll see. It shows that that team really loves JJ McCarthy just with seeing what happened post game there. And they're playing at home, so I'm with you. And I still don't know if that Ravens uh defense has been fixed, Gilbert.
Yeah, again, like I don't think they're fully back. I even wrote that on my story. Like, yeah, they're playing well, but they're not Super Bowl contenders just yet. So you can't just assume they're going to win all these games here.
Yep. All right, Gilbert. We have four teams on a bye this week in week 10: Bengals, Cowboys, Chiefs, and Titans. Let's get to our quick hitters here. We have the Browns traveling to the New York Jets. This line, Gilbert, started at 2.5 for the Jets.
Hmm.
Now they're plus 2.5 after all the trades. The over under here is 37.5.
Yeah, I talked about this one with Mike too, and yeah, he pretty much said it's probably a stay away game. I definitely will stay away too. You know, I kind of like the Jets at the beginning of the week, but then they lost a lot, so I think they might throw in the white flag. And I also don't think Garrett Wilson could play. If he does, maybe just if Garrett Wilson plays, I will take the Jets here. But I just want to give some information here. And if you're twisting my arm, I will still take the Jets here. But part of me wants to trust the Browns defense to just hold up and play for pride, and they tend to do that. But they don't have their running game. They lost Quinshon Judkins. Dylan Gabriel is not going to be the quarterback of the future. He's not good. This team cannot score. So if it's Wilson, Brees Hall, and Fields, I think I trust that team to score enough points to win here. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but I think I would rather stay away at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then it was kind of weird too, Gary. I don't know if you saw, but Kevin Stefanski gave up play calling.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's not a good
so
offense.
no, and I think he might be another another coach. I mean, you have a coach that's won two Coach of the Year awards, and he might be looking for
Mm,
work after this season,
yeah,
which kind of sucks because I think they're five and I think I saw here they're 5-20 in the last two seasons after making the playoffs. Not
yeah.
good, and I mean, it's not all his fault. They pretty much have uh just they're an analytical team, and so I just you know
Yeah, I
I'm
think we need a coach hot seat meter for
yep.
next week because that's a good one. Stefanski and Morris. And Stefanski, for all the praise he gets for being an offensive genius, I get that he has crappy talent, but you got to do better than that.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially what we've seen with some of the other coaches around the league this season, like Shanahan.
Mhm.
All right, New Orleans at the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
The Panthers are 5.5 point favorites. The over under here is 39.5.
Yeah, I started the show by saying, don't lay more than a field goal for divisional games, and I will stick to the rule for this game. I will not break it. And I really want to go Panthers here, but personally, every time I go with the Panthers, they let me down. So just for good juju, good vibes here. I don't know if you saw that Panthers podcast. They stopped doing the podcast, and the Panthers took off. It kind of feels like that. So I think they're trying to come back now. You can't do that. This Panthers podcast. I forget what it's called, but if they start losing, blame that podcast. Don't blame me. But I'm
Yeah.
not picking the Panthers here. I hate to pick a side here, but give me the Saints plus 5.5 just to keep the rule and not break it.
Yeah, and then you have the Panthers now as your win total, replacing the Commanders.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I hope I'm wrong and the Panthers whoop them, but hey, they
yeah,
can
and
still
that
win
podcast
by
doesn't
4.
come back the rest of the season
Yeah.
for the sake of your wins
Yeah,
draft
screw
this
them.
week going forward, I should say. The
They're the reason.
Yeah, Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins 9.5 point. I mean, the Bills are 9.5 point favorites. The over under here is 50.5.
I'm gonna keep doing the rule. That's the theme of the show. Give me the Dolphins to cover, Bills to win, but I will not break the rule and lay more than a field goal for divisional games. That is the rule.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like the Dolphins to at least cover at home, especially after they got blown out and at home against the and they're on like a little mini bye, so maybe they'll be well rested enough to kind of keep it close. And then because I had it as one of my best bets, and I don't have a banner for it here. You said it's Broncos are the favorites by 9.5 points. You did have one of our compas,
Oh
Fernando,
yeah.
say, yeah, if you want to bring that up here.
Yeah, and Fernando knows the rules. You don't take a favorite in a divisional game that's laying more than a field goal. So he's taking the Raiders to lose by less than 9.5. I will follow along because that is the rules. I would not break that rule on this, that being the theme of the day. So maybe you could jump in too, Victor, but I think we're all going to take the Raiders plus 9.5. I hate that I'm saying that. I don't trust the Raiders for anything right now, but that's the rule, 9.5. And Fernando got the trend start. He said he pretty much sounded confident the Raiders are going to lose by less than 4.
And like I said, I had it at the beginning of the week. I changed it just because of like some of my rules, but I'm gonna go here with the Compas too. I really like what they're and I guess I should say I like what they're doing in terms of talking about the Raiders going forward, Gilbert. We talked about this. They should tank the right way, as you said, right? Keep it close, but
Mhm.
lose your games. And it just feels like Brock Bowers getting hurt might have been a blessing in disguise in terms of what they
Yeah.
want to plan for going forward, Gilbert, because had he not gotten hurt, you might have seen them win a couple more games and you would have seen expectations or things kind of be different for this team. Let's say they win 1 or 2 games here. They win that Bears game, they win the Jaguars game, right? They're sitting at 4-3 or something, right? And then you have the fan base thinking, well, this team is better than they actually are, and you look around that roster, there's a lot of holes on there that they need to fix. Yes, I'm excited about some of the players that they have, but it's pretty obvious, Gilbert, that they need a lot of work. And so now going forward, you just want to be able to stay close, continue to run your 12 personnel with Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, and see what you have in Geno Smith and whether or not you need to move on at the end of the season, Gilbert.
Yeah. Put it this way for why it's really critical for the Raiders to just keep tanking and you want to be competitive and lose at the end. That's fine too. You build confidence. You tell people in the offseason, we were close. We're almost in it. And then you get the top 5 pick or the top 10 pick. So what I wish the Raiders would have did what the Jets did when you should have traded Max Crosby and got a more draft picks. But now the Jets say there's a quarterback out there that the Jets want and the Raiders are ahead. Like they could leapfrog them because they have 2, 3 first round picks to trade and move up the board. So it's critical for the Raiders to really get a top 5. Browns have multiple first round picks. They probably should have traded Myles Garrett,
Rams,
but
yeah.
a lot of teams who need quarterbacks have multiple first round picks. So it's critical for the Raiders to lose all these games because you did not trade Max Crosby and have a top 3 or top 5 pick. I know maybe next year is not the class to do it. I'm
I was
hearing bad
just
things
gonna
about it.
say, yep.
But regardless, it's always a guy. Like even like this year, Jackson Dart looks pretty nice. I know he's not a superstar yet, but you never know who you could hit on in terms of scouting. But that's just one thing that's gonna be on my radar for the end of the year.
Yep, and I just wanted to bring that up just as the last thing. But Gilbert, that covers all of week 10 for us. Hopefully, we have a just as good a week as we had last week. We one of us hits. We've been pretty good outside of that. What was it? The week 8 where we either one of us did not hit on our super dog. We've been pretty good. One of us usually hits on that super dog. So and we've been good whether we go 3-2 or 4-1 on our best bets. We've done pretty well. So and we've given people the information that they need, and it's up to them whether or not we continue to hit on these, I guess I should say.
Yeah, no, I think we're doing well. We're always going to admit when we get some wrong, and that's fine. If people want to comment when we get it wrong, I like it. It gets more engagement. People, that means people are watching. It's letting us know that people are watching. It gets the algorithm going, and yeah, if we get it right, then more people are going to keep watching. So it's a lot of pressure on us, but at the end of the day, you're making the pick here. We're not going to force anybody. We're just going to share information. That's why we have two people here, two different point of views. Uh, take what you want from it, but hopefully you're enjoying the conversation at the same time. So. Yeah, we're having a lot here on Compas on the Beat. This is our betting show. We got doing this live where we review everything from the NFL week on Sunday. We have four Compas on Tuesday where we banter. We got Dan and Dago longer this week, and we had a lot of laughs, and it really made the show a little more livelier. I did notice that when he was on longer. And then Wednesdays are our team previews. We are from LA. We are based in Southern California, so the Chargers are on What's Up Boats. Chargers are playing the Steelers, and then House of Horns, the Rams are playing the 49ers. Two big time games here for the LA teams, but that's everything we're doing at Compass on the Beat. It's a lot. We're busy. We're losing sleep. We're tired, but we're sticking through. It's week 10, but it's time to get going. Ya nos vamos, pues. Vámonos.